Oh, whoa, whoa, yeah. Hi guys, hello, welcome back to another Yappy Era video episode. Um, what the hell just happened? My mind actually just like evaporated for 5 seconds. What the hell was that? Hi guys, welcome back to another episode. Um, I I am in such a yapping mood right now that I thought it only made sense to do an episode of the Yap Your Ear Off podcast. So I have some things I want to dive into. Start. That's my cat. Wow, what a great start. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that, y'all. Had to let my cat in. Bro, she always jumps at my freaking window. Like she acts like a bird. You know how birds fly into windows and because they can't see windows? Is that real? Like, can birds not see windows? I think that's true, right? Can birds see glass? Yeah, not windows, glass. No, birds cannot see glass itself, so they either fly through it or are confused by it. They lack the ability to recognize a window as a solid barrier because they cannot see it directly. Instead, they see reflections of the sky and trees, mistaking them for open space, or see through transparent glass to what looks like a clear path to indoor plants or another landscape. Huh. So, yeah, I swear my cat is like a fucking bird. Jesus. Anyways, I wanted to dive into Frankenstein. Oh my god, y'all. I watched Frankenstein by Gil. How do you pronounce this poor man's name? Um Gila G- Guillermo del Toro? Guillermo del Toro? Did I say that right? Well, yes. I watched Frankenstein directed by him, and it was so good, y'all. I knew about the Frankenstein story. It's a classic. I'm pretty sure everyone knows about how Frankenstein created a monster, and that's basically all I knew. Like, that's all I knew about that. So, I went into this with a very much a blank mind for what to expect. I don't know what to expect. I haven't really ever dived into the classic literature or any of that. And I just knew it from kind of pop culture not memes, but references and stuff like that, being such a popular um piece of media. It's a novel, correct? Like, oh, it's a novel. I'm pretty sure the movie is based on a novel, but yeah, Frankenstein is a novel, right? Um, so yeah, I watched it. It was great, y'all. I have so much to talk about. Um, yeah, it was such a beautiful movie. Jacob Elordi was so good in that. His acting was so good. A lot of the acting was so good, but Jacob Elordi's acting really stood out to me because it was something completely different. I haven't seen him kind of in that light ever. You know, Jacob Elordi. Well, hey, I've talked about that man on this podcast before. What more do I have to say about that? But I truly only ever saw him in Euphoria and Priscilla. Um, and he in those movies he played very different roles, but they shared some of the same elements. Being a douchebag frickin' man. So seeing him play the monster in Frankenstein was really, it was different, and it was great. Get that man his Oscar. Like, God, he was so Snow White esque. He did a great job portraying someone that has just been brought to life. A newborn baby per se, because in a lot of ways, he was very much a baby. You know, albeit, yeah, he was a big monster, but mentally, mentally, yeah, he was very much like a baby. He was new, and he did such a good job portraying that man. A scene that comes to mind a lot is where he's feeding the deer berries or something like that. Oh, that's such a good scene. It made me tear up, man. He did so good. But yeah, and there was so much depth to that movie, and there's so much depth that I probably haven't seen yet and or realized, and I want to rewatch it because I know that there's a lot of references to paintings. I heard one of them being, the famous painting of, touching God, the iconic painting where it's the fingertips touching, that was referenced, as well as um another painting to do with, I think, I'm so sorry, I might be wrong, but I think it's a painting to do with like Jesus Christ having a cut over here or something. Actually, let me stop talking about that because I am uneducated and I don't know what I'm talking about, and I really want to get into it at some point. Maybe in this episode, we'll see. But yeah, man, I want to rewatch that movie and see what I missed, and analyze it. It was so good, and it kind of brought some things to mind that I wanted to talk about. Um, and firstly, I wanted to read out a little paragraph that I wrote in my notes app after watching the movie. I was sitting on the toilet taking a nice long poop that I was holding in while watching it, and I wrote this. None of us asked to be put on this earth. None of us asked to endure the pains of everyday life. Heartbreak, hurt, grief. But what a beautiful thing that can be. To take all that pain and live. Live a life not only of hurt we didn't ask for, but of love, companionship, and joy. The warmth of the sun on our face, the coolness of the snow. We may not have asked to be put on this earth, but what a wonderful thing it can be to love and experience life until death. Now, in terms of the monster, that wasn't really written about him because unfortunately, you know, not only was he brought to life and and didn't want it, he unfortunately, he has to live life with the tragedy of not being able to die. Now, you know, hearing like not being able to die, like, that's great. But, if you really think about immortality, it's I feel like it's something that everyone has, once upon a time dreamt about being immortal, not dying. You know, Lord knows I have, and I feel like it's a very common experience to think, what if I was immortal? To wish, especially those that may fear death, which, I feel like a lot of people do. But, you know, if you really put some thought to it, like being immortal, it's not even that great because it takes so much out of life. Not only will you be stripped away of being able to grow old with your loved ones, you have to you have to experience countless many people's death that you love. And I feel like it also kind of takes away from the I don't know how to put it. I'm lost for words right now. It kind of takes away a lot out of life in terms of, you know, it's so important to live in the moment, and it's so important to look at the people around you and, truly love them. Um because life is fleeting, you know. No one is on this earth forever. So, you know, I think that's what makes it more uh um I don't know how to put it, personal. It makes, it more deep when you're with your loved ones, and why it's so deeply important to really live in the moment and live with your loved ones and take all of that time and put it to good use, because life is fleeting. But if you were immortal and you were under the mindset that life isn't fleeting, I feel like you wouldn't love as much. You wouldn't be able to live in the moment as much. Um so that's why it's such a tragedy when you think about the monster and how, he was cursed with the curse of immortality. Um especially cuz one of the biggest things in that movie is, it shows that all he wanted was love. He just wanted to be loved. He wanted a and that's why he goes back to Victor. And yeah, let me lay it out. Like, there's obviously gonna be spoilers about this, but that's why he goes back to Victor and asks for companion, because he just wants someone to stick by, and he wants someone to love, like Elizabeth. But kind of as I said before, he had to experience her die, and although it was by the hand of Victor, no matter what, he would have had to, you know, live through the death of Elizabeth, because he would have lived past her, you know? Um but yeah, but I mainly wrote that paragraph after the monologue, speech. I don't know if it was a monologue per se, you know, the dialogue between Victor and the monster as Victor is dying, you know. They kind of, in a way, make amends, you know. Victor apologizes for bringing the monster to life, and for being the reason that he has to live with the tragedy of not being able to die. But his final wish to him, I keep almost saying Frankenstein, like, because it's such a common misconception that the monster is Frankenstein. But one of his final wishes to the monster, to his son, which, might I add, it was very heartwarming when Victor called the monster his son. But one of his final wishes was to live, and that's why I wrote that quote, because to live, it's I feel like it's our duty in life. Um, and I always think about this quote that Brittany Broski said in a podcast one time, about how beautiful it is that so many of us are alive at the same time as our loved ones, because what a small, minute chance that we're alive the same time as our best friends and stuff like that. And that's such a beautiful quote by her, and I love that quote. I've referenced it so much. I referenced it in my end of year speech last year for school, because I truly love it. And yeah, and especially now, I'm I'm in this kind of mindset where I really want to focus on spending time with my loved ones. Um, it's one of the reasons why, yeah. And sorry, I can hear my family in the kitchen. I'm so scared they're gonna come into my room while I'm recording. But yeah, it's I'm very much in a mindset right now where it's I find it very important that I live in the moment, and I spend time with the ones that I love, and I want to make more of an effort to do so. Um, yeah, so that's why little monologue between dialogue between them at the end of the movie was very beautiful. And although it was very beautiful and heartwarming, the movie, it wasn't a happy ending. It just left with the monster, walking into the distance, but knowing that he still has to live with the tragedy of immortality. It was sad, and you know, it didn't make me feel good. Um, but yeah, apart from that, it was such a good movie. I loved it so much. The symbolism with the paintings that I want to get into, and the symbolism of the angel that Victor dreams about, how he believed that that dream was, you know, kind of the angel. I guess you could say maybe the angel of death, saying to him, you know, I give you permission to conquer death. But in turn, I feel like that dream was more of you know, a cautionary tale. Not cautionary tale, sorry, but more of a threat. You know, the fire blazing behind the angel. Um, it was meant to be a threat. Don't don't you dare try and conquer death, because death is a part of life, and there's no life without death. You know, both physically and spiritually and mentally. You know, as I said before, I feel like immortality would take away how how deep it is. Not deep. I still can't think of the right word. There's a word that I'm looking for. Heavy. How heavy it is to live and love. To be immortal just takes away from that, and it strips away, I guess, the meaning of it. Yeah, that's it. Being immortal would just strip away the meaning of love. Yeah, you would still love, but you know, it. I feel like it'd be much more easy to just like say, yeah, I love this person. You know, it would take away from the overarching meaning of love, I guess. You know, being able to step back and really soak in these people, your life, who you love, the joy you experience, the hurt you experience, and how it's made you who you are today. Well, okay, some of that stuff I kind of lost the plot, but y'all understand what I'm trying to say. Another thing that the movie made me think about is the cycle of violence, and how you know Victor, in a way, just became his dad in the end, and continued the cycle of violence. And the monster, you know, had anger, which you could say also was a symbolic of him continuing the cycle that Victor was in. But in the end, he walked away from it, and hopefully it stayed like that. Because, yeah, you know, I saw a lot of similarities. One being Mia Goth. Is that her name? Mia Goth played two roles in this movie. She played Victor and I forgot the brother's name. Victor and the brother's mum, as well as the brother's wife, and whom Victor ends up falling in love with. And I feel like you know my interpretation of that. I feel like the director. I don't want to say his name again because I feel like I'm butchering it, Gil, but I want to give credit where credit is due. I feel like Guillermo del Toro did that for a reason, I think, and to kind of show like, you know, that Victor fell in love with this woman, and this woman is looks exactly like the mum. And that wasn't for any story purposes. Like, it wasn't be like, oh my god, hi, he fell for someone that looked like his mum. No, but in terms of for the viewer, it showed, he used the same actor to symbolize that Victor was just becoming his dad, and he was also continuing that cycle of violence, which he did with the monster. You know, there was a lot. I found a lot of similarities with the scenes where Victor was trying to see if the monster was intelligent, and it was very much it was very similar to the scenes in the early parts of the movie where Victor and his dad were doing lessons together, and his dad was trying to teach him um you know um about human anatomy to become a doctor. And whenever Victor got something wrong, he got slapped. He got a whip to the face. um the same way later on in the film where Victor tries to get the monster to say anything other than the word Victor, and he starts hitting him with like a metal pipe or something like that. There was such a it's just a horrible scene to watch. I'm getting emotional thinking about it when you know when Victor had this mindset of the only way you can listen to me is if I hurt you. And that's such a painful and horrible way of seeing you know seeing something like that. He didn't take the time to fully nourish um and care for the monster like you should, like you would with an actual child. He instead did the same thing his dad did, which was the hurt. You get something wrong, you get hurt. You do something bad, you get hurt. And I won't get into it. I don't want to get into it, but it really hit home for me, unfortunately, y'all, because the cycle of violence is all too familiar with me. Um, but that's all I'll say about that, because another theme that I picked up on, which I feel like is one of very it's very easy to pick up on, is the theme of playing God. And it got me thinking about this quote from Jurassic Park said by Ian Malcolm. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think about if they should. And yeah, that quote was lingering in my mind so much while I was watching Frankenstein. Um, because it was very clear that Victor was so obsessed with conquering death after the death of his mother. You know, that was the catalyst for him to be like, I'm I'm going to stop death so I don't ever have to lose a loved one again. And then that same night he had the dream of the angel and the fire behind the angel, and he took that as this is my sign, that's my calling to conquer death, when it was really a threat to not do that. Um, but yeah, you know, like, why do it's almost in human nature, this innate need to play God. You know, why do so many humans, men, want to have such a God complex and want to and think that they can be God? It's so yeah, and so I'm kind of on this. I feel like I'm about to get on this new spiral about playing God, and I want to dive into some. Um, I really want to start diving into some other media that has to do with playing God. Jurassic Park is definitely one of them. You know, where playing God bit them right in the ass, and the same thing with Victor. He played God, and it bit him right in the ass. And not only did it bite him in the ass, it bit other people in the ass. You know, he brought to life a monster that has to live with a tragedy. You know, because what, you wanted to be God? Fuck you. And this is another quote that I wanted to bring up by theologian Paul Ramsey, which is noted, and he's noted for saying, "Men ought not to play God before they learn to be men. and after they have learned to be men, they will not play God. So yeah, that was my little run about Frankenstein. With that said, moving on to Lux by Rosalia. Are you joking? Are you joking? That is such a good fucking album, man. Oh my god. Truly a piece of art. Rosalia is such a visionary, man. And that album, it's so beautiful. I've cried. If I'm feeling it, I might put in a little voice message of me listening to it and crying because I think it's funny. I might edit that in. I'll see. But like, oh, it's such a good album, man. I love it. I've been listening to it nonstop since it came out. It came out on Friday, which was 2 days ago. Sunday today. Yeah, and it's so good, man. She truly is a visionary, and no one is doing it like her. There's no one out here doing it like her. You know, she like, uh, she did not care about charts like so many I feel like artists today do. She did not care about charts. She cared about art, and art always will prevail. And that's so period. I don't know if I'm gonna do it in this episode because I've already been talking quite a lot about Frankenstein, but I really want to do a deep dive on that whole album. Um, and the meaning of the meanings the meaning of a lot of those songs. I already know the bass lines of some of those songs, like um wait, let me get the track list up. Lux track list. First of all, yeah, I want to get a quote, a line from that album tattooed on me. The one that she sings in um once again, y'all, I don't want to say these because I don't want to butcher it. The fourth track, Porcelana. Sorry if you're watching, babes. Let me know if I said that right. Porcelana. That's one of my favorite songs off the album at the moment. And in that song, she sings a line. I think it's ego sum nil, ego sum lux mundi, which is Latin, and it means I am nothing. I am the light of the world, and I wanna get the second part tattooed on me. I am the light. I am the light of the world. Cause as I kind of went into the last episode, into it, I've been, um, you know, I've been on a path right now where I'm trying not to dim my light. So I really like that line where she says, I am the light of the world. That's why I wanted to get it tattooed on me. Maybe over here or like over here. Ego sum nil, ego. Oh no, not that part. Just the ego sum lux mundi. Just that part. Such a good line. Um, Also the song, the third track, Divinize. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Where she sings the line, you can see the light through my body. Once again, I interpreted that the way is, there is a light inside me, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and I need to never stop shining it. And no matter who's around, let shine bright like a diamond. And I'm beautiful see you and I, we're diamonds in the sky. Yo, like, bitch, like, I'm gonna shine my light and I don't give a fuck. I'm a diamond in the sky. Um, but yeah, man, it's such a good album. She sings in like 13 languages in this album. She's so cool, man. Such a good album. I love Rosalia. Motomami, El Melcurir. Such good albums. She truly has such a love for the arts. So I really want to do a deep dive into this album, and watch a lot of her interviews that she done and listen to the podcast that she was on. And I might do a whole separate episode on that, man, because that truly deserves a whole separate episode. Um Anyways, now now to lighten the mood, I've been wanting to set this up. And what better way to do it than to do it on the pod. I was playing Spider-Man, the 2018 game Spider-Man, and there was this mission where you have to like stop water towers from leaking. Um, and it got me thinking, bitch, what the fuck is a water tower and how do they work? Because, it's a big like tower of water. Is it for the building? Is it like what's it for? And you know, and why are they like you'd assume it'd be on the bottom, right? Anyways, so let's dive into what are water towers, how do they work? Now, so this is educational time. And if you are getting bored, bitch, you're dumb. Like educate yourselves, come on. Okay, how they water tower okay, this is okay, whatever. Water towers work by using gravity to store water at a height, which provides pressure to the local water system. They serve two main functions as a large storage tank to balance demand fluctuations between water treatment plants and consumers, and to supply emergency water for situations like fires or power outages. How they work: water is pumped from a source into the tower. Since the tower is at a high elevation, gravity creates pressure as the water flows down, pushing it through the pipes to homes and businesses. Oh, right. That's so weird. Like, why they put it at the top? Oh, well, I guess because of gravity. Or I don't know. Pressure regulation. The height of the water in the tower determines the pressure. The pressure can be controlled by the height of the water level, allowing it to provide consistent pressure across a wide area. The tower acts as a buffer, filling up when water use is low and emptying during peak demand. This allows the water treatment plant to operate at a steady rate instead of consistently struggling to keep up with fluctuating demand. The water tower provides a large reserve supply for times of emergency, such as during a power outage at the water treatment plant or a fire. The stored water can be used to fight fires and provide water to the community even if the regular pumps are not working. Okay, that was boring. Wait, because I don't care. And I just said if y'all found it boring, y'all are dumb, so I'm dumb. Yikes. Okay, well, I thought that was gonna be way more. I thought that shit was gonna be way more interesting, and I thought I was gonna be like, oh, wow, but that was a whole lot of nothing. That was a whole lot of nothing. And with that said, I think I'm going to go ahead and call this one quits. Because I think that's all I got. Well, that's not all I got. I always. Oh my god, that fucking cat again. She just came inside, and now and then I just heard my mom take her outside, and now she's wanting to come back inside. Make up your mind. Anyways, that's all I got for this one. Thank y'all. Wow, this episode went by so quick. I was filming for 32 minutes. I feel like I should talk more because I feel like I've only been filming for 5, but it's really late and I need to go to sleep because I do got school tomorrow. So I'm gonna call it a day. Goodbye, y'all. Kiss your mothers for me. Goodbye. That's all I got. Bye 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 bye.